Dear viewers, welcome to this episode of Your Life, Your Money. Everybody wants to build wealth. Everybody wants to become very rich. Everybody wants to have a large corpus of fund to fund their life goals. But the journey to building wealth is not as simple as it looks. Most people find it very difficult to build wealth. Why? Because they are not focusing on where they should be really focusing on. In this episode, I am going to talk to you about 3 points where you really need to focus. If you are able to do that, your wealth creation journey is going to become a child's play. This is NRI Money Clinic for you, and I am Dr. Chandrakant Bhatt, your financial guide for a happy living.
NRI Money Clinic. No hype, just the right advice.
Dear viewers, if you focus on 3 simple things, which most of the things you will be able to control, your wealth creation journey is going to be a very, very smooth one. What are the 3 points on which you have to focus on? Point number 1, the amount of money which you save. Point number 2, the rate of return you are likely to get in your investment activity. Number 3, the tenure that you are working with, whether it's going to be 10 years, 15 years, 30 years, that's the thing. If you are focusing on these 3 things, the amount of money you are going to invest, the rate of return you are going to generate, and the time that you give your investment to work for you, if you can control these things, then the wealth creation will be mastered by you without any particular problem. Now let's look at each of these points a little bit more in detail. Point number 1, the amount of money you are going to invest. The final outcome, irrespective of the rate of return you generate, is directly proportional to the amount of money you are going to invest. You can invest a lump sum amount of money. You can invest a certain amount of money at regular intervals of time. People call it as systematic investment plan, which are very popular. The final outcome is directly proportional to the amount of money you are going to invest. Increase that amount, the amount of wealth you create increases. You decrease that amount, the wealth that you are going to generate will also come down. If you invest just 10 lakh rupees, and let's assume that you have got 30 years of time with you, and you generate a rate of return of 10%, the just invested 10 lakh rupee could be very, very close to 2 crores. That's roughly about 20 times of your initial invested amount of money. If you are able to increase the rate of return to 12%, the same amount of money can be somewhere close to 3.5 crores, 35 times of your initial invested corpus. So when you start your investing journey, it is very, very essential that you put larger amount of money. It calls for sacrifice during your early phase of life. During your early phase of life, you have lots of time to retire. You have time to reach your goals. As you move up in your career and as you lose those precious initial years, the amount of time that you have will come down. So the key here is, as an youngster, instead of finding happiness in spending money, you should focus on saving as much money as possible. As an youngster, may not be still with the family responsibilities. You could be earning a good amount of salaries. Your parent could be clearing your education loan. There could be a lot of money that is available for you to save. Use that money. Do not use this money to put under a crypto, or do not use this money to trade in the market. Simple thing, put as large amount of money as possible for the saving account and give it the time it requires, and it can work wonders for you. The problem with most people is they say, I cannot save money. I cannot save money could be reasons of I have a low salary, I have more expenses, or I am spending too much of my money, and that's why I'm not able to save the money. Whatever could be the reasons, you should find a way to save more. If you are a person who says that I spend a lot, then it's time to find out how you can reduce your expenses. If you are a person who is dining out every weekend, probably if you curtail it to once in a fortnight, probably you can save some money out of it. If you are a person who is taking Vacations twice a year, probably if you curtail it to one time in a year, probably you could be able to save some amount of money. Likewise, if you are the person who is going to an exotic vacation, expensive vacation, if you want to still have a vacation, go somewhere near place where you are staying, reduce your expenses, save that money, and that's going to play a very major role in the final outcome of how much wealth you are going to create. There is another set of people who say, I do not have sufficient amount of income. What can I do? Again, the focus should go towards creating more money. Think about all possible ways wherein which you can increase your saving. Try to put that extra hours, be it in your company or outside of the company, doing an extra job or doing a part-time job, doing moonlighting, whatever the terminology you use. Try to increase your income. When your income increases, do not increase your expenses. Rather, that extra income that comes in your life, try to save early in your life. Likewise, instead of wasting your money on unwanted things, see, for example, the youngsters of today wants to have that flashy phone as soon as it gets released. Instead of that, why don't you wait for a few months or 1 or 2 years? The same phone will be available for you for a fraction of the initial price which is quoted on that particular phone. So if you control your urges, if you wait for some time, then you find yourself how you can save your money. There are countless gadgets which are available for a sale price. There are countless furniture which are available for throwaway prices in the secondary market. If your intention is to save money without compromising your lifestyle, without compromising on the urges that you have, you can still find ways and means to save the money. Put all efforts, save that money, and you invest that money, and in the final run, this is going to make a huge difference. It's a process which you have to enjoy. Initially, nobody likes, see, if you feel like eating out today, that urge is there. Instead of being trigger happy, wait for a while. Plan your days, plan your spending. It gives you an happiness when you and your wife sit at the fag end of your career or during your retired life. You will enjoy this process and you will recollect how you made it happen, how much of compromises you had to make, how much of sacrifices you had to make to save that money, and that wise step that you took on that day has resulted in a comfortable position in your life because of that. And let that step begin today. One another way for you to increase your savings is build a second income. Building a second income could be because of your investing activity. You initially save the money and create a second income. It could be a rental from a real estate. It could be some plans which give you a regular stream of income. Think about it. If you can create a second income and you don't need that income at this point of time because you have an active income, use that second income to save the money. That can become a pool of money for you to save early in your life. The second factor which dictates how much of money or the wealth you are going to create in your life is the rate of return which you generate on your investment. This is a tough one. Most people do the mistake here to generate a very high rate of return. Whether it happens or not, but if it happens, then it will work wonders in you. But in the process of getting a very high rate of return, you make mistakes, then you could be playing a snake and ladders game. That means you tried and you fail and you fall to the bottom. That should not happen. So in your pursuit of rate of return, make sure that you will not end up again coming back to the basics, to the level where you started. Why I am telling this point? There are a lot of youngsters who go towards futures and options, trading, cryptos. All these things are fraught with lots of dangers. So follow a process wherein which ultimately it should result in wealth for you. So the things what I said, cryptos, futures and options, tradings are not a sure shot way to create a wealth. You must create higher return. How much higher return? More the better. Is it possible to create a very high rate of return? The answer is yes and no. If you follow a particular process, probably you will be able to generate a good rate of return. It's just like, you drive a vehicle. While you are driving the vehicle, your vehicle may be geared to drive at 200 kilometers speed or 240 kilometers speed. That's the speed at which your vehicle can go. But do you drive? No, because you can be abruptly stopped by a policeman, a signal light, something coming along the way, you meeting an accident, everything is real. Similarly, when you try to generate a very high rate of return, what might happen is at some point of time the risk may play and you may lose your principal. That's a possibility. So when you're gearing up to generate a high rate of return, you should follow a safe approach, but at the same time it should have the rate of return. How can you build it? A simple way that I tell my clients is find out what is the bank rate. If the bank rate is, let's say, 6%, try to generate something 3 to 6% over and above the bank rate. That's very, very logical. If you look at the history of the stock markets have given approximately similar kind of a return, at least in Indian context, at least in the US context. This is what I have seen. 3 to 6% over the bank rate looks a logical rate of return to focus on. If the bank rate is 6%, 3 to 6% means it is going to be 9 to 12%. If the bank rate is 8%, then it is going to be 11 to 14%. If you look at the returns given by the stock market, it falls into that particular bracket. When it comes to question of generating a rate of return, it results in a very complex situation. The complex situation is every day it is not possible for you to generate a high rate of return. In the longer time horizon, you can definitely generate higher rate of return both by using the real estate as well as investments in the stock market. When I say investing in the stock market, it could be in any fashion. You could be investing in direct stocks or a PMS account, or could be an ETF, index funds, mutual fund, unit linked insurance plan, pensions plan which invest in the stock market. Anything could be fine. If you are invested in this and you have a long time horizon in front of you, you can make best use of this. When I talk about long time horizon, I would say a time horizon of more than 10 years, preferably 15, 20, 30 years is the time that you should look at. Only then you can generate a high rate of return. But if your life goal is shorter than 10 years, will stock markets work in your favor? I cannot answer that question. It may work in your favor, it may not work in your favor. Stock markets over a longer period of time will deliver. In the short term, it may move up, it may come down, it may remain static, or it may suddenly go up and it may suddenly take a dip. Any possibility could happen. So the time dictates which route you have to take. If your life goal is shorter, I would still prefer to go in for more of a fixed income kind of instruments to generate your return. But if you are looking to generate returns over longer periods of time, let's say you have a newborn baby today and you are planning for education funding of this child, which is 17 years later, and 17 to 22 years period of time, the child is going to college and you need money at that point of time, it makes absolute sense for you to make use of the stock market related investments. But if you say my son has to go to college, he is studying in 8th standard now, 5 years later I have to admit him to one of the professional colleges, then stock market is not the place where you should go. Rather, it could be a bank FD, it could be some other fixed income which can be utilized during that particular period of time. When you work on return, one of the factors that you have to keep in mind is what is the effect of taxes. Say you work on a particular type of investment vehicle. The final thing is not how much corpus it generates. When you are trying to consume this money, how much is the amount of taxes that you have to pay? Your final return is post-tax return. When you choose an instrument, make sure the tax treatment of that particular product, that will dictate. See, if you are using a bank FD, the interest is taxed on an accrual basis, which means to say you maintain an FD. The FD doesn't pay you interest, rather it keeps accumulating within that FD. But at the time of filing the tax return, if you are a resident Indian or if you are a FDs are the NRO type of FDs, then that income is added to your income. and whatever is the applicable tax structure which is applicable to you, the slab rate, you have to pay taxes. So the interest on FDs are taxed on an accrual basis, whereas in case of mutual fund, it will be taxed as capital gains. That means only when you harvest it out, when you sell it, the amount of gains will be taxed as capital gains, and there is a differential tax structure. So compared to a bank FD, a mutual fund portfolio is more tax efficient. In case of mutual funds, for example, now you try to rebalance your portfolio. Every time you try to rebalance your portfolio, there is a tax element, you have to pay taxes. The amount which is available for you to reinvest comes down. Think about a unit-linked insurance plan. In that case, since it works like a wrapper product, there is no taxation till you walk out of these investments at the final point. Let's say that you have put your money into a unit-linked insurance plan with the purpose of creating a retirement income, and that retirement is 20, 25, 30 years later. Till such time, whatever rebalancing you do in that plan will not suffer taxation. So all these things are finer points which needs to be considered. When you are considering the return, find out how much time you have. Is it safe to assume that you get a higher rate of return? What is the taxation that your vehicle that you have chosen will go through? What could be the post-tax scenario? These things will dictate which instrument you should utilize to generate the return. Simple thing to remember, higher the return, the better. The higher the return, the risk increases. The only way to bring down that risk when you are aiming to get a higher rate of return is to increase your tenure. Longer you make it, it becomes safer. Now let us try to understand with the help of an example how a slight change in rate of return can work wonders in your life. I've taken a case of a person who starts with a 50,000 SIP. Every month he will invest 50,000 and he invests for next 30 years. And he generates a rate of return of 10% on that. If he generates 10% return, over a 30 years period, he has invested about 1.8 crore rupees, his capital. How much will that be? It will be approximately 12.5 crores. But if he is able to generate a rate of return of 12%, just 2% over and above that 10%, the final outcome, instead of being 12.5 crores, will be approximately 20 crores. The rate of return increased by 2%, but the final outcome increased by 8 crores. So the rate of return you generate is equally important. But needless to say, when you try to generate a very high rate of return, it is fraught with a lot of dangers. You have to be very, very careful what to choose, what not to choose, and it's better if you work with advisors to understand the risk-reward payoffs. The third element which you can control is the tenure of your investment. Longer the tenure, it is far better. The more the time that you have, more the wealth that you create. You just have to follow some of the very simple basic steps. Number one, compartmentalize your investment. When you are investing, you should know your life goal. Why I am investing this money? How much time do you have? If you say I am adding some money into my savings and the purpose is to buy a car 5 years down the line, then your SIPs may or may not work in your favor. It can cut both ways. But if you say I am adding an SIP, the purpose for which I am starting this SIP is my retirement, then your tenure should be in sync with the retirement age, which is about 60 years. If you are a 25-year-old person and you have just started your career now, you have literally 35 years. Make best use of this particular period. But unless you compartmentalize and you know for which purpose you have put in your money, you may tend to do the mistake of withdrawing this money at the next opportunity to buy a gadget, or it could be buying into something else which you don't need. It is very, very essential that you compartmentalize your investment, categorize them as short-term investment, medium-term investment, and long-term investment. Long-term investments are which are more than 10 years, ideally 15, 20, and the longer the better. When you are building tenure in your investment, one of the mistakes people make is they try to tamper the portfolios. See, the philosophy to follow here is select right and sit tight. If your selections are right, if your process is right, take it from me, most of the time you don't need to do anything. Tampering your portfolios is not in your best interest. The more you try to tamper your portfolio, I'm talking about the mutual fund portfolios here, I'm not talking about the individual stocks, which may have a different kind of suggestion that might be required. So take my views on tampering of portfolio with respect to mutual fund portfolio or a unit linked insurance portfolio. So if you select right and sit right, that works in your favor. If you constantly keep on churning your portfolio, what happens? Number one, you do not know your job well. You are in a self-doubt, or your advisor is in a self-doubt. Every time you go in and out, you are trying to time the market, which you can't do for certain. Timing the market is a futile exercise. One or the other time you will be badly bruised by the timing issues. I have said this in multiple number of videos. It's just not possible. The other problem that you will come to face is the taxation. Every time you churn your portfolio, you have to pay your capital gains tax or income tax depending on what instruments you are invested in. So the amount of money that is available for you to reinvest post the churn comes down. So the best thing for you to follow is give the long term, select right, sit tight, work with an advisor, do not churn, which is not in your best favor. So if you follow these 3 steps that I have told in this video, increase the amount of investments you make, try to increase your rate of return by properly compartmentalizing, and increase the tenure that you have for your investment to work in your favor, you can create wealth without any doubt. By the way, if you are a person who feels, no, I cannot focus on any of these things, I cannot understand, I need an external help, I need an advisor, you can make best use of services provided by NRI Money Clinic. We have a team of experts empaneled with us. If you need an advisor, please do share your contact details with us through a WhatsApp message. Our WhatsApp number is given here in the description box. There is also a link which is provided there. Click on the link, it will take you to the WhatsApp and send us that message now. And our team of experts are ever ready to help you. Dear viewers, hope the video that I have done today helped you to simplify and understand how you can create wealth without much of a difficulty. If it did give you a direction, please give me a thumbs up. If you are a person who is watching my channel for the first time, or if you are yet to subscribe for the channel, please hit the subscription button and press that bell icon. Do not forget to share this video with your near and dear ones. Thank you very much for watching this episode on NRI Money Clinic. I shall be back with you with yet another thought on your life, your money next Friday. Till then, stay safe. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Press the bell icon for more details and subscribe our channel.